Skateboarding and video games have a long and colorful mutual history dating all the way back to the early home consoles and arcade. From half-pipes, to downhill races, blunt slides, to 900s, to everything in between, and beyond. Many have been chart-topping hits, but many more fall into obscurity, which, let's be honest, many deserve. But the best skateboarding games have always managed to capture the raucous, creative, and above all, fun energy of something as basic as pushing around on a dinky little plank of wood with wheels. I love skateboarding and video games, so naturally I love playing and talking about skateboarding games. In this video series, I want to expand on how they intersect and really get into the finer points of these games and the impact and influence they've had on me and gaming. With very few exceptions, this series will be concentrating on games dedicated to skateboarding, so there will be some likely omissions unless I change my mind in the future. I don't know yet. Skateboarding has its own vast and frankly dumb vocabulary, and it's very easy to get lost in the backside 360s and half-cab heels for the uninitiated, so I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section and I'll address them to the best of my ability. Alright, let's do this thing. The year is 1999, right at the turn of the millennium. Britney and Christina released their debut albums, The Phantom Menace absolutely dominated the box office, and Y2K was unwarrantedly making the world a little crazy. The Sony Playstation is the undisputed king of the first generation of 3D gaming due mainly in part to its vast third-party lineup. N64 was no slouch in the games department, but their over-reliance on admittedly excellent first-party products saw them falling behind. On August 31st of that year, Neversoft would release Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, a skateboarding game that would become a smash hit franchise and forever leave its mark across the cultural landscape. If you've picked up a controller or a skateboard in the last 20 years, then you very likely know who Tony Hawk is. He is, bar none, the most famous skateboarder on the planet, which is funny because people can't seem to pick the poor guy out of a crowd. I mean, have you seen his Twitter lately? Despite his new circumstances, he's had an undeniable influence on video games, skateboarding, and pop culture. He was even on The Simpsons when that still meant something to the general public. Tony created an extremely unique legacy that helped usher a fringe subculture into the public eye when the game was released. Now he gets to spend his days skateboarding, raising his kids, and working with charities to spread his good fortune. That's a pretty sweet deal. 1999 was a stacked year for video game releases. Looking back, it feels like every platform had its fair share of successful and exceptional titles that year. I mean, that's not to say there weren't also a few remarkable duds in the bunch. Though few games that year would have as unique an impact as Neversoft's first entry into the action sports genre. The game saw wild success for its fast, fun arcade-style gameplay and its bombastic soundtrack predominantly rooted in punk rock and third-wave ska. I mean, everyone remembers Superman, which is whack because I can't play it right now. These elements coupled with intuitive controls, huge combos, impossibly long grinds, and big airs helped the game McTwist its way into our hearts, and no, I'm not sorry for that one. This game was so instantly successful, it blew another vastly different take on skateboarding right out of the water. But that's a video for another time. The game sold 350,000 copies in the US and became the third best-selling game of 2000, beaten only by Pokemon Stadium and its own sequel, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. With each new yearly entry, the games introduced new facets of gameplay, all in the service of extending combos and achieving higher and higher scores. Pro Skater 2 introduced manuals, 3 reverts, and 4 spine transfers, as well as the franchise's first online multiplayer mode. Tony Hawk's Underground, released for multiple platforms in 2003, brought some major changes to the series, including the ability to finally get off the board, run and climb to extend combos, and reach newer heights both literally and figuratively. Underground also introduced the story mode, which would become the new norm moving forward. The story puts you in the shoes of an anonymous upcoming amateur skater by way of your custom character. Back in the day, you even had the option to map your face using a JPEG that you would upload to the game, but I remember the results being pretty poor. the player takes on increasingly ridiculous challenges to reach pro skater status. They manage to interweave all the pros on the roster into the story and even features a rivalry with your supposed frenemy Eric, who is just a 10-pound bag of dicks. Like, seriously, Blue could learn a thing or two from this guy. I'm trying to paint pretty broad strokes here because there are just way too many iterations of this game to get into the exact specifics without this becoming a 30-minute exercise in futility. Plus, given the chance, I'd love to make videos about more individual games of the series. Now, I think Pro Skater is the first series that created the precedent for the yearly franchise release schedule gamers would come to love? Loathe? At the very least tolerate? Still not sure about that one. Things were great, and gamers honestly couldn't get enough. Until they did. Activision's money-printing supergiant became far-flung from the throes of its former glory and began a slow but definitive decline. Between changes in development teams, extreme changes in the core concept, franchise fatigue, and a fresh new game vying for the Birdman's crown, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater fizzled into the gaming ether, still releasing titles but quickly losing steam. By the way, if you know of a franchise that predates the ferocity of the Pro Skater yearly release schedule, please let me know in the comments. I'm legitimately curious. Ultimately, it seems to me that the downfall of the series was the result of an ironic combination of stagnation and futzing with the formula too much. Over-innovating, if you will. Downhill Jam, released in 2006, was an offshoot where every level was a downhill race, a concept played with in some early series levels, but never really expanded past that. Tony Hawk's Ride, released in 2009, was a truly fascinating concept where the player has the chance to finally get off their ass and skate. In front of their TVs anyway. The game used a unique skateboard controller to get players closer to the action than ever before. I've personally never played it, but I have not heard good things. With the huge success of games like Beatmania, DDR, and Guitar Hero, this time in gaming saw a massive influx of peripheral-based games, and Activision was an especially egregious perpetrator. Fighting for relevance in a market tired of what it was selling, the 7th, 8th, and 9th mainline titles, American Wasteland, Project 8, and Proving Ground, saw the series move to the latest generation of consoles on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. They too introduced new aspects to gameplay and were fairly well received, but the damage had already been done. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater no longer had the bankability or buzz it once had, so attention fizzled. There would be more games, but at that point, no one seemed to care. You still with me? Good. I ran through all of that just to get us to the latest title in the series, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2. I know the game is called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, but I like the sound of 1+2, so that's what I'm going to use moving forward. 1+2 in many ways is a much awaited return to form for the franchise. It was developed by Vicarious Visions, who also developed a personal favorite of mine, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, back in 2009. The constant theme running through the game is old meets new. In addition to original levels, music, and classic game modes, 1+2 also boasts a huge roster, including the OG pros from the original games, as well as a slew of returning and modern pros including Tashawn Jones, Nigel Houston, Leticia Buffoni, Lizzie Armanto, Shane O'Neill, and Leo Baker. Everything about this game follows that theme of old meets new, which is just extremely fitting. It's equal parts nostalgic and a much-needed breath of fresh air for the franchise after it stagnated in the early 2010s. Vicarious Visions have managed to create a unique opportunity for the series, providing classic, perfected gameplay for the fans of the franchise while opening itself up for a new generation of gamers. With the release of 1+2, we've kind of reached a point where gamers of a certain age can now share the love they had for this game with a new generation of gamers and then smash them into bits because there's no mercy for the weak. Even the soundtrack relies on this old meets new formula, bringing back some of the most iconic songs from the original soundtracks and adding new tracks that fit seamlessly into the brand the games have cultivated over time. The use of Rage Against the Machine's Guerrilla Radio is an inspired choice that instantly takes any classic player back 20 years with power and style. Using that song from that game in that context just brings back so many memories. It has been an absolute pleasure revisiting many of the old levels. I have a lot of fond memories playing the Messiah level in particular. Back in the day, it was the feature level for the demo, and it's where I really got my first meaningful dose of the series. Every level from 1 and 2 are back, including Skate Heaven, a huge trippy wonderland full of half-pipes and straight-up cursed imagery. Oneplus 2 attempts to correct a lot of wrongs in the series by combining some of the most notable levels with the sleekest gameplay, which was a huge concern for me at announcement. Unlike Activision's first attempt at this game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD, Oneplus 2 doesn't sacrifice gameplay for nostalgia. The best example I can think of to explain it is something I affectionately refer to as the Casper conundrum. The Casper Slide is a trick where the skater flips the board into a half rotation, placing the back foot on the underside of the tail and the front foot under the board to hold it in place. As I previously stated, manuals were introduced in Pro Skater 2 as a means to expand the combo system they developed in the first game. Special manual tricks like the Casper and the Casper to 360 flip were mapped to the grab button, making it impossible to link to special manual in an ongoing combo. After 2, I guess the developers recognized the potential for bigger scores and combos if they mapped those tricks to the grind button, since grinds are only activated under a very specific context. When Pro Skater HD released in 2012, developers Robomoto decided to go back to the original button mapping, essentially crippling the flow of gameplay that was refined so long ago and sacrificing superior gameplay for nostalgia. And don't get me wrong, I love nostalgia. I don't think I could sustain this channel without at least a bit of it, but a bad design is a bad design, especially when previous games solved this problem long ago. The new game immediately corrects this, opting for a style of play that falls somewhere between Pro Skater 4 and Underground, just about the point where their classic gameplay peaked. Because of this, we get wall plants, double and triple flips, as well as grind and manual switches. Old sensibilities in a modern package. Old meets new. It's anything but subtle. The game also has competent and fun enough online modes. It sticks you in a lobby with other players and a random level and gives a player different challenges to determine a winner. It cycles through some of the old game modes like Trick Attack, Tag, Graffiti, Horse, and Free Skate. And you know what? At first I was doing pretty damn well. Mostly winning or coming close, but then I discovered the competitive ranked mode and I don't match up. It'd be a fun challenge if I was into the game a bit more, but my attention starts to wane after a while and I lose interest. Sometimes I think about how I'd rather be playing Skater XL. I do, however, think the thing that will keep players coming back is the reintroduction of the Create a Park feature. Introduced in 2, Create a Park is exactly what it sounds like, letting the player's imagination run wild and create zany and unique levels using pre-composed parts. Players can download new levels from the community and it opens up countless new possibilities and a ton of creativity. There has been one major quality of life improvement for the game where level goals completed in single player are no longer tied to individual skaters, but rather overall progression. Complete every level once and you're done. You do, however, have to collect the stat points with each individual skater to unlock their videos. Because of the former, I'm not even a little bit bothered by the latter. Having said all those wonderful and praiseworthy things about Oneplus 2, the shiny luster begins to fade quickly after you finish the first campaign with a few skaters. Being rewarded with 45-second videos becomes hollow insanely fast. Doubly so when like a third of the roster's clips is mostly archived footage. I don't have the playing habits of my teenage self, so there's much less incentive for me to absolutely get all the things or whatever. The silver lining here is that this is ultimately a good thing overall. Because of the sheer influence of this series, more people started picking up boards, getting good, and recording footage. Platforms like Instagram make insane skateboarding content so abundant and free to access. I'm almost certain the popularity of Pro Skater had a big hand in making that possible. Overall, I really enjoyed this rehash of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It's a fun return to a different time for me, and the game fits like a glove, or a well-worn baseball mitt. Honestly, the biggest gripe I have with this game is the lack of manual pushing. Somewhere along the way, I want to say Underground, the player was given the option to manually push the board by pressing square while on the ground, and it was honestly one of my favorite little things. I don't really see why they chose to eliminate that feature, but maybe I'm alone on that. It's such a minor thing that only people like me who live for games like this would even possibly begin to care. Nostalgia is a powerful feeling, and the game capitalizes on it in a big and very successful way, transporting older players back to the turn of the millennium for an old school, kick-flipping, special grinding, skate collecting, ride-to-looping stroll down memory lane. Now I'm even at the point where I honestly can't even wait to see what they do with the series, if anything. Also, I'm sorry, I know I went easy on them in the video, but I can't get over Robomoto screwing up gameplay as badly as they did. Like, what in the hell is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5? What the hell's wrong with Pro Skater HD? Level design was bad, the obstacles are so disproportionate to the skater, it's like Robomoto's motto was, if it ain't broke, smash it into a million pieces, throw it in a filthy trash bag, and just release that on disc. They completely changed the way specials work, and really to what end? Is it so you can look like a forest nymph shitting rainbows? Because I might seriously be open to that. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on a return to the series that started it all. I feel like I'm starting to get a better idea of what it takes to release these videos on a more consistent schedule, so I'm gonna keep at it. I absolutely love doing this and I want to get better and better at it. I haven't decided what my next video is gonna be, I just know it won't be a part of the skate game series. I'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.